After a couple invited the Queen to their wedding, they were blown away by Her Majesty's response. Upon learning that Queen Elizabeth II would be visiting their city on the same day as they were getting married, John and Frances Canning decided on impulse to invite her to their nuptials. Never in a million years did they expect the Queen to even acknowledge their invitation, of course. But on the day of their wedding in March 2012, the happy couple received an extraordinary surprise. So how did this come about? Well, John and Frances Canning, residents of Greater Manchester, England, had been excitedly planning their wedding when they learned some intriguing news. It turned out that their chosen venue, Manchester Town Hall, had been double-booked, with the Queen, no less. And while the Cannings had booked it a while beforehand, Her Majesty naturally took precedence. The Queen's visit to Manchester was actually arranged under the auspices of her Diamond Jubilee celebrations. For this, she undertook a long tour of Britain and the Commonwealth during 2012. She hosted lunches, for example, and attended celebrations and met a wide variety of people. So when they learned of the double booking, John and Frances evidently mused whether they too could make Her Majesty's acquaintance. On a whim, then, self-confessed royal fan John sent a letter to Buckingham Palace asking the Queen if she would like to attend their nuptials. "I've never ever written a letter to anyone, for any reason," the 48-year-old told the BBC in March 2012. "It was a bit tongue-in-cheek in some ways. I thought, what have we got to lose? If we get a letter back, even better," the groom continued. "I put in my letter that I hoped she would have a lovely day in Manchester, all the very best on the Jubilee, and if you've got any spare minutes, we're only next door." And he actually did get a response. Yes, one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting answered the letter. This is common practice within the walls of Buckingham Palace, of course. The Queen receives so much mail that she can't possibly answer all of her letters, although she does read some. The reply to John and Frances thanked the couple for their kind invitation, wished them all the best on the big day, and informed them that the Queen would not be coming. But the pair were just delighted to get a response. "That made my day because I thought, she's read it," John told the BBC. "I just thought that was the end of the matter." But it wasn't. The day of the wedding was an even more hectic one for John and Frances because of the Queen's visit. Their guests had to undergo security checks, for instance, and Frances was applauded by a crowd as she made her way inside the town hall. Thousands had turned out to see the head of state, you see, and while they waited they were happy to celebrate a wedding too. The Queen's day was also a busy one. She and her husband, Prince Philip, first visited St. Mary's Hospital, and then they took in a performance at the Manchester Royal Eye Hospital. Her Majesty then went to Salford to open a new communications business park, while Philip visited Salford University Media Centre. It was amazing that they even had time for anything else. But they did. John Canning described to the BBC exactly what happened. "After we'd got married, we walked through our guests into the middle room where we were going to spend 5 minutes together," he said. "The gentleman from the town hall came up and said the Queen had agreed to meet us. It was a huge, delightful shock for both the newlyweds and their guests. All of a sudden the Queen and Prince Philip were there in front of us," guest Hayley Fitzpatrick told the Manchester Evening News shortly afterwards. "I was so surprised I knocked something over. She looked at me and asked if I was okay. It wasn't just a flying visit, either. In fact, the Queen took part in the couple's wedding photographs. It was a lovely present from them to us," John told the BBC. "The best present you could ever wish for, really." Frances added, "It was a bit scary, but it was lovely. She was so nice. She was so gracious. We're just two working-class people at the end of the day, but for that moment, we felt very, very special," John told the media outlet. And news of the Queen's wedding crash soon spread around the entire world. HuffPost, CNN and Time magazine all reported on the story, for instance. Frances, a 44-year-old mother of two and a hairstylist, also spoke to The Sun about her memorable meeting. "It was surreal, I couldn't believe it," she told the newspaper. "The Queen spoke to us by our first names. She said I looked lovely, and she wanted to wish us all the best for the future. It was very special. It was so lovely that she took the trouble to speak to us," she went on. "We're going to have to get a bigger wedding album now. Not many people will have pictures like that." Certainly, the pictures and videos that found their way online show the bride curtsying to the Queen. As for John, he got to spend some one-on-one time with Prince Philip. He was a charming fella. For me, it was the icing on the cake, he told The Sun. We'll never forget this day. If we can have half as many happy days together as the Queen and Prince Philip, then we will be blessed. The Queen, of course, knows all about long, happy marriages. She and Prince Philip married in November 1947, back when she was still a princess. They've been together now for over 70 years, a truly impressive feat. For their golden wedding anniversary in 1997, Elizabeth even gave a speech where she called Philip "my strength and stay." However, not all royal marriages have been as long-lasting. Famously, 3 out of 4 of the Queen's children had their marriages break down in the same year. Anne, Andrew and Charles all split from their spouses in 1992. But things look more promising with the new generation of royals. In recent years, the Queen has attended several of her grandchildren's weddings, most notably the weddings of Prince William to Kate Middleton and Prince Harry to Meghan Markle. These marriages also seem to exemplify the way the royal family has started to become more modern and down-to-earth. This image transformation has brought the Queen a new wave of popularity too. This was evident in the generally positive comments made about her wedding crash. But whatever the case, it certainly gave John and Frances had an experience they'll never forget. Thank you for watching video.